Self-Oblivious Leaders, A Disconnect Between Self-Concept and Actions, by Dr. Robert Roddy. You can follow him on LinkedIn. Introduction. A troubling trend in the contemporary workplace has emerged, a stark gap between individuals' knowledge of behavioral concepts and their enacted behaviors. I define this phenomenon as the rise of the self-oblivious to describe individuals who speak passionately about virtues like empathy, respect, emotional intelligence, vertical development, and gratitude, yet fail to embody these ideals meaningfully. While it might be easy to dismiss them as hypocrites, the reality is often more complex and, in many cases, unconscious. These individuals possess a sophisticated understanding of positive behavioral concepts, articulating values that resonate with others and convey a genuine desire to uphold these ideals. However, their actions contradict their words, creating a jarring disconnect that confuses and often frustrates and demotivates those around them. Rather than being intentional, this discrepancy is frequently rooted in a lack of self-awareness. The self-oblivious person usually doesn't recognize how their behavior undermines the values they claim to hold dear, leaving them blind to the impact of their actions on others. This unawareness leads to an inconsistency that can damage trust, morale, and cohesion in any workplace, ultimately damaging or destroying personal and professional relationships. Understanding self-obliviousness. Consider Sarah, a program lead at a large organization who embodies this paradox. She is widely praised for her eloquent speeches on respect and teamwork and is known for her theoretical knowledge of organizational dynamics. She advocates for open communication, mutual support, personal development, and inclusivity. Yet her behavior reveals a starkly different reality. Sarah frequently sabotages colleagues who outperform her. If a team member receives positive client feedback, Sarah withholds this recognition, often unloading on them privately and using her position to belittle rather than uplift. Her emails to team members are terse, laden with criticisms about how she would have done it better, though she never demonstrates such standards herself. Sarah demands unwavering commitment and effort from her team that she is unwilling to match. She imposes ambiguous demands, draining morale and fueling confusion. Often absent during the preparation of presentations, she leaves others to pick up the slack but then insists on last-minute changes, particularly in sections others are set to present. Instead of providing feedback in time to make necessary adjustments, she insists on changes 5 minutes before formal presentations, putting her team on edge. She also takes credit for others' intellectual contributions, even going so far as to replace original credits with her name. Sarah's self-perception as an enlightened leader amplifies the issue. She views herself as a superiorly evolved, construct-aware individual, akin to the alchemist stage with wisdom and maturity, likening herself to figures such as the Dalai Lama. She openly believes that others worship her and assumes she is revered for her insights. In reality, her colleagues see her as a micromanager who is arrogant, demotivating, and self-unaware. This stark gap between her self-constructed image and the perceptions of those around her paints a textbook example of self-obliviousness. Sarah's interpersonal approach only reinforces this disconnect. She inquires frequently about her team's personal lives, but when they share positive events, she reacts with childish jealousy, as if she was hoping to hear of their struggles instead. When she doesn't like the answer, she may even attack their sense of identity in an attempt to undermine their confidence, leaving them puzzled. The difference between how Sarah views herself and how her colleagues see her highlights the essence of self-obliviousness. Her carefully constructed self-concept blinds her to the negative impact of her actions, creating a toxic dynamic in which she believes she is an inspirational figure. At the same time, her colleagues feel frustrated, belittled, and demotivated. Those who can move away from her or limit exposure do inevitably so. The roots of self-obliviousness. To better understand why individuals like Sarah are often blind to their behavior, we can examine several psychological mechanisms. 1. Cognitive dissonance. The dynamics of Sarah's behavior are deeply rooted in cognitive dissonance, a theory proposed by Leon Festinger in the 1950s. Cognitive dissonance describes the discomfort people experience when their beliefs and actions conflict, often prompting them to justify their actions to preserve a positive self-image. For self-oblivious individuals like Sarah, however, this internal conflict goes unnoticed. They unconsciously rationalize actions that don't align with their professed values, allowing them to maintain an inflated sense of integrity without confronting the inconsistency in their behavior. 2. The Dunning-Kruger effect. The Dunning-Kruger effect, identified by psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger, also helps explain Sarah's lack of self-awareness. This effect shows that people with limited competence in a particular area often overestimate their abilities. For Sarah, her theoretical knowledge creates an illusion of expertise in organizational dynamics, but she lacks the practical skill and self-insight to implement these principles effectively. This overestimation makes her assume she embodies values like empathy and collaboration, while her behavior consistently contradicts these ideals. 3. The shattered self-concept. Compounding these factors is the concept of a shattered self-concept, which draws on E. Torrey Higgins' self-discrepancy theory from the 1980s. Self-discrepancy theory explains how individuals experience distress when there's a gap between their ideal self, the qualities they aspire to, and their actual behavior. Self-oblivious individuals like Sarah avoid examining this gap because confronting it would destabilize their carefully constructed self-image. For someone like Sarah, admitting that she falls short of her idealized self, a superiorly evolved leader, would cause a shattering of her self-concept. Instead, she unconsciously rationalizes her actions, protecting her sense of self by disregarding or reinterpreting her behavior. Research from the University of Michigan in 2004 supports these dynamics. It illustrates how people overestimate their moral qualities, often viewing themselves as more empathetic and kind than their behaviors reveal. This blind spot suggests that self-oblivious individuals like Sarah are not intentionally deceptive. Instead, they are genuinely unaware of the gap between their ideals and their actions. When aggregated, these biases, cognitive dissonance, the Dunning-Kruger effect, and the avoidance of self-discrepancy allow Sarah to maintain an idealized image of herself as an enlightened leader. Rather than engaging in honest self-reflection, she rationalizes her actions to keep her self-concept intact, disregarding the negative impact of her behavior on others. This lack of alignment between words and actions lies at the heart of self-obliviousness, shaping Sarah's behavior and creating a toxic atmosphere for her team. The negative impact of self-oblivious leaders. Self-oblivious leaders like Sarah have a corrosive impact on their workplace environments. Their behavior often fosters a toxic culture where genuine collaboration, trust, and morale are continuously undermined. Leaders like Sarah may create conflict seemingly for its own sake, leaving team members feeling dismissed, undervalued, and actively thwarted. This environment can lead to high turnover and harm mental health and psychological safety. Team members frequently find themselves apologizing to Sarah without truly understanding what they did wrong, an act of self-preservation to keep her satisfied rather than a genuine resolution of issues. Rather than respect for her leadership, Sarah's team members speculate about when she will inevitably crash and burn, a prediction informed by her previous dismissals from similar roles. For those under self-oblivious leaders, the challenges are indeed formidable. Working in such an environment is the proverbial act of walking on eggshells. Team members must navigate a landscape of undermining tactics, unrealistic demands, and frequent condescension. These leaders' refusal to acknowledge others' achievements and their inclination towards sabotaging high performers create a culture of fear that restricts growth and erodes trust. Many team members feel silenced, their efforts and successes going unrecognized, and they must carefully manage their interactions to avoid potential retaliation. The initial appeal, a trap of constructed loyalty. At first, Sarah's self-presentation as an insightful, knowledgeable leader is compelling. People are naturally drawn to her and eager to learn from someone who seems well-versed in values like respect and empathy. She uses this initial appeal to build early loyalty, but this loyalty soon becomes a trap. Colleagues, especially new team members, unconsciously construct an idealized image of Sarah based on what she says rather than what she does. She projects an aura of wanting to help people by providing opportunities to work on desirable projects. However, this help is transactional, contingent upon tacit loyalty, as if she is keeping a silent scorecard. Those moments of humanity she exhibits may be genuine, but they are short-lived. They buy into her self-image, a leader who embodies the very values she preaches. Yet, as her behavior begins to show inconsistencies, this early admiration blinds people to her flaws. They become unwitting accomplices, enabling her toxic behavior by validating the persona she presents rather than challenging it. Here lies the twist: this is a co-constructed trap that neither side entirely controls nor intends. There is no single party at fault. We become enablers when we unconsciously paint an image of self-oblivious individuals based on their constructed self-concept rather than their actions. We become participants in building and keeping their echo chamber in place. Rather than assigning fault, it's essential to recognize that by painting the projected self-construct, we help co-create an environment where their self-oblivious behaviors can flourish. The responsibility, then, lies not in fault but in awareness. By validating the image they construct rather than addressing their actual behavior, we may unintentionally contribute to the toxicity. After all, the painter is always responsible for what ends on the canvas. In essence, we perpetuate the dynamic by focusing on the idealized self-construct rather than the individual's substance. We are not responsible for others' deception, but we are responsible for our perception, which leads us to buy into the deception. A culture of gaslighting and manipulation. Addressing the disconnect between Sarah's words and actions proves challenging as people begin to notice the disconnect. Attempts to offer feedback or voice concerns are quickly deflected as Sarah turns the tables, reframing conversations to make others doubt their perceptions. She engages in gaslighting, subtly suggesting that colleagues are misinterpreting her actions, overreacting, or aren't at her stage of adult development. To reinforce this perception, she suggests articles or books she hasn't read, attempting to assert her self-proclaimed insight further. This manipulation leaves her team in a constant state of self-doubt, fostering an environment where open communication feels risky and silence feels safer. Over time, team members learn that speaking up is futile, and a culture of suppressed communication and isolated frustration takes hold. They feel there's no way to reach Sarah. Her facade remains intact, allowing her self-oblivious behavior to persist unchecked. The impact on mental health and team dynamics. The toll of working under a self-oblivious leader like Sarah is significant. Team members who were initially self-motivated become disillusioned and undervalued. The respect they once held for Sarah turns to resentment, but they feel trapped, fearing retaliation or further gaslighting if they speak up. This cognitive dissonance, the clash between their early perception of her and the reality of her behavior, fuels stress and self-doubt, undermining their mental health and morale. These toxic dynamics damage team collaboration as people distance themselves, leading to disengagement. Sarah's behavior erodes trust, morale, and productivity across the team. High performers, unable to thrive in such an environment, eventually move on. Recovery can be a lengthy process for those who leave, as they often wrestle with a sense of responsibility, feeling they may have unwittingly enabled Sarah's self-obliviousness by offering her space to improve through collaboration, accommodation, compromise, and avoidance. It can take months for them to make sense of the experience and find peace. Strategies for protecting oneself from self-oblivious leaders. While Sarah is fictitious, the behaviors described reflect those of real individuals in organizations everywhere. Even more concerning, self-oblivious leaders like Sarah are becoming increasingly common across various levels of organizations. Research published in BMC Psychology, 2023, suggests that individuals like Sarah are not isolated cases but part of a broader trend in organizational settings where narcissistic traits and self-oblivious behaviors are more frequently observed. If you work with a self-oblivious individual, safeguarding your well-being and establishing professional boundaries is essential. Here are strategies to protect yourself while maintaining resilience in such environments. 1. Recognize the reality beyond the facade. Initially, self-oblivious leaders like Sarah can project an idealized persona that seems to embody core values, drawing people in and building loyalty. But it's important to observe actions over words. Acknowledge the gap between what the individual says and what they do. Research published in the Journal of Applied Psychology in 2015 has shown that narcissistic leaders often create environments lacking in true collaboration and integrity, which can ultimately harm organizational performance. By trusting your observations rather than getting drawn into the allure of their self-constructed persona, you can avoid becoming overly invested in an illusion. Consider how much real influence and social capital the individual actually has, and resist constructing an image of them based solely on assumptions or desires. 2. Document everything. Maintaining detailed records of interactions, decisions, and feedback is crucial in environments where manipulation and gaslighting are present. This isn't just about keeping a paper trail. Documentation helps bring clarity and objectivity, especially in high-stress situations where self-oblivious individuals may attempt to rewrite narratives. Research on narcissistic behavior in workplaces, published in the Academy of Management Review in 2013, highlights the importance of documentation to safeguard oneself and the organization. As you collect information, patterns emerge, making self-obliviousness easier to recognize. It also helps in self-assessing if we are exhibiting self-obliviousness so we can avoid that trap altogether. Once visible, these patterns are hard to unsee, allowing you to respond more intentionally. 3. Seek external support. Working with self-oblivious individuals can feel isolating, making it easy to start questioning your perspective. Consulting with trusted colleagues, mentors, or HR professionals can validate your experiences and provide guidance, helping you feel less isolated and more empowered. APA 2023. If you're concerned about sharing details, try presenting hypothetical scenarios. This approach can provide valuable insights while allowing you to remain objective. 4. Set firm personal boundaries. Self-oblivious individuals like Sarah often cross boundaries, especially when those boundaries aren't clearly defined. Setting and communicating professional boundaries calmly but firmly can prevent manipulation. Research has shown that lack of boundaries invites further exploitation by narcissistic individuals. Cohood, 1977. By clearly defining what behaviors you will not tolerate and sticking to your stance, you limit unnecessary engagement in emotional dynamics and preserve your integrity. 5. Engage in self-care and resilience practices. Managing your mental health is essential when working in a challenging environment. Practices like mindfulness, exercise, and hobbies can alleviate stress, helping you to face challenges without internalizing negativity. Studies on resilience show that self-care is crucial when navigating difficult interactions, empowering you to withstand manipulation while maintaining your well-being. Rievich and Schatt, 2002. If the situation affects team performance and morale, consider escalating your concerns to HR or higher management, presenting factual cases supported by documentation. 6. Focus on professional growth outside of their influence. In environments where self-oblivious individuals hold influence, it's beneficial to seek learning opportunities, mentorship, and connections beyond their reach. This broader support network allows you to develop professionally without relying on their validation or approval. Building connections with trusted colleagues reinforces boundaries and prevents the internalization of manipulative behaviors, supporting personal growth and resilience. Ryan and Desi, 2017. These strategies, supported by research, provide a comprehensive approach to navigating the complexities of working with self-oblivious leaders. Each step, from recognizing patterns to seeking external support, helps manage the emotional toll and ensures that you remain focused on your own growth and well-being, even within challenging dynamics. Moving beyond self-obliviousness for a healthier work culture. Sarah's behavior highlights the critical need for self-awareness and accountability in leadership. Self-obliviousness is more than a personal flaw, it's a detriment to workplace culture, undermining trust, morale, and productivity. Encouraging leaders to engage in honest self-reflection, supported by feedback, is essential for organizations striving to create healthy collaborative environments. A culture that values alignment between words and actions fosters genuine trust, enhances collaboration, and drives sustainable productivity. The rise of the self-oblivious serves as a cautionary tale about the importance of authenticity in leadership. By setting boundaries, validating experiences, and prioritizing self-care, individuals can shield themselves from the negative impacts of self-oblivious behaviors. Together, employees and leaders can bridge the gap between ideals and actions, cultivating a culture where respect, integrity, and genuine connection are not just spoken values but are reflected in daily practices. Ultimately, a commitment to self-awareness and transparency at all organizational levels builds a workplace where personal growth and professional success are possible. In such a culture, leaders and teams can work toward shared goals with confidence, resilience, and mutual respect. End of article. We hope you have enjoyed this thought-provoking article. Please feel free to share it on your favorite social media platforms. Thank you.